What is this thing? A red tide, or harmful algal bloom, is a colony of algae that has grown out of control. The algae in this bloom produce toxins, and these toxins are released when the algae die. These toxins hurt the animals that live in the water and on land in the area along the shoreline. In some cases, it is okay to swim during a red tide, but because you only get a little irritation. But there are extreme cases. Extreme cases being the Florida red tide. Florida started experiencing these red tides in the 1840s. They started to become more dangerous after the population growth in the 1950s. They also did the most stupidest thing. They started dumping polluted water into Tampa Bay. That's smart. After 40 years, the bay has been significantly cleaned of the polluted water, but the red tide is still getting worse. In 2018, only a year ago, the red tide was so bad that the beaches had to be completely closed. You could not even walk on the beaches because of how much algae there was.
Effects of harmful algal blooms. Harmful algal blooms can be harmful to both marine life and creatures that live near the water. Fish, manatees, seabirds, whales, and humans can all be hurt or killed by these blooms. Waves near the shore can throw the toxin up into the air, making it airborne. This neurotoxin can be inhaled by humans and animals nearby and can result in respiratory irritation. Animals are also affected by the toxins produced by algal blooms, as well as other effects. Some type of algae damage fish gills. Fish and shellfish can be exposed to some of the toxins and become contaminated without necessarily dying. Creatures higher up on the food chain can be poisoned by eating these contaminated organisms. Marine mammals can also be exposed to the toxins when they come up to breathe. Toxins end up in the air even in the absence of waves. Fish and other organisms that rely on oxygen in the ocean can also be killed less directly by the algal blooms. Once a large bloom begins to die off, the algae is eaten by bacteria. This explosion of the bacteria population leads to far higher than usual consumption of oxygen in this area of the ocean. The dissolved oxygen is depleted, and fish and other creatures that need this dissolved oxygen to survive must leave the area or die. Marine mammals, while still able to breathe, find that all of their food has moved or died, leaving them with nothing to eat. There are other ways algal blooms can harm marine organisms as well. The toxins they produce don't have to be eaten, they can be absorbed. The algae can also get thick enough to block the light, killing off any photosynthetic organisms that live in the water or on the ocean bottom below them. Also, a less typically thought of but still legitimate type of algal bloom is a macroalgal bloom. Macroalgae is also called seaweed and grows in various places, including on coral reefs. Macroalgal blooms deplete the oxygen in the water when they decay, and when they occur on a reef, they overgrow and smother the coral. Algal blooms can kill almost all marine organisms in an area by blocking light, producing toxins, and using up all of the oxygen. Organisms that do not survive a serious bloom find themselves in a drastically changed ecosystem. The area does eventually go back to normal once the bloom's effects have dispersed and organisms have moved in from other parts of the ocean. Right after the bloom, though, any organism that still remains will find themselves in an ocean that is much emptier.
So there's this huge red tide thing coming to destroy the coral reefs, but why should we care? It's easy for people to see coral reefs as not much more than underwater decoration, and while decoration is cool, it isn't particularly necessary. After all, most people visit coral reefs to look at them, not to gain a more material value from them. From this perspective, anything that hurts coral reefs is unfortunate, but it isn't worth much effort to try to fix it. But the thing is, coral reefs aren't just decoration. Sure, they're pretty, but they're also central hubs of marine life. Though coral reefs make up less than 1% of the ocean floor, they contain about a quarter of all marine life, as major cities alone contain about half of all people. Of course, marine life isn't the same as human life, but it is still very important. A turn for the worse in the ocean at that scale is bound to cause trouble. The red tide already costs an estimated $22 million annually, not to mention the spikes in medical problems. The point is, the ocean's health is important. Not only is it pretty, it also has a big impact on the world both environmentally and economically. So, when problems like this come up, it's important that we rise to the task and work to fix them.